Lakeburg Legacies caught my attention a while ago, back when it was just a short 1-minute trailer at the PC game show. The game has come a long way since then, which I've known about because I have been following the developer blogs that have dropped every so often over the past couple years. The art style was part of what drew me into the game, but the biggest part was the idea of how the characters inhabiting the world would live, love, and the legacy they would leave. I always enjoyed that aspect of the Crusader Kings games, and I thought that if Lakeburg Legacies could replicate that, I would have a great time. Lakeburg, however, decided to do something wholly unique from that formula and has introduced me to a city-building management game crossed with matchmaking and creating the best and cutest couples around. Lakeburg Legacies is described as a social-based village management sim game by its developer and publisher, the French-based Ishtar Games. The game was initially revealed in 2021 at the PC Game Show, and though it got delayed from the expected 2022 release, the game was under steady development the whole time. Then in 2023, we got a release window for spring of that year, which was later pushed back to July 20th, 2023 for PC. While the developers expressed interest in bringing the game to consoles, as of this video releasing, there is no word about which platforms that would be on, if it happens at all. I took some time with playing the game, resulting in me completing my first game of Lakeburg Legacies after the embargo had lifted, so I got a chance to check out some reviews from other sources. There is some wild discrepancies on how reviewers viewed Lakeburg, and I can't say I'm surprised. There is a whole lot here to play with, and I found the experience mostly enjoyable with clear room for improvement in certain areas. Others, though, saw a flawed experience that threw too much at the drawing board while ignoring depth in certain systems. In those cases, I always feel like it's good to get down to the basics of what the game is, so that's what my video will do. You start off Lakeburg Legacies with a single villager. Your goal with your single villager is to cut down some trees and make yourself a house. A house that you can live in with your soon-to-be partner that you pick amongst a plethora of suitors from another town. You settle down with your new beau, maybe start working on growing your family tree and start to bring more people into your village. As more people come in, you'll build more houses to accommodate them, buildings for them to work in, and create more couples. You continue to grow and evolve all the way up to becoming a gosh darn monarchy. You even get to pick who gets to be the first ruler, and if you don't like the rulers that come after, well, that coup d'etat button is always ready, as long as you have the hearts. A standard game of Lakeburg Legacies lasts 75 years. The game ends on January 1st, year 75, for those curious on how that works. And then you tally up your prestige and find out how well you did. That is the basic structure of the game, and I'll get into more detail on the main two parts of gameplay, matchmaking and village management, and how they interact in a second. But one thing I noticed immediately upon starting up a new game was the settings. A standard game of Lakeburg Legacies is exactly how I described it earlier, but there are ways to change this around, starting with the 5 different difficulty modes separated between the matchmaking and management sides of the gameplay. This distinction is also emphasized with a customized slider that allows you to have a balanced developer-intended experience, or one that is more focused on the side of the gameplay that appeals most to you. Don't care all that much about getting couples together? Put the slider over to the management side, and vice versa. I think this game truly benefits from letting players customize their experience, and the developers recognize that and provided options. 75 years is also a long time. I took a little over 10 hours to complete one game. So maybe you want to do 50 years instead. Or maybe you want to have a longer game. That's okay too. For me, these options are the main reason I have for replaying the game, to create a game experience that speaks to what I want from the game in the moment and put some variety into the gameplay loop. Speaking of that, let's talk about the romantic relationships. Anytime you want one of your villagers to find the love of their life / the next decade before they inevitably fall into a series of arguments that lead to a breakup and a surprisingly not acrimonious custody suit, you just hit that couples button on the left side of the screen. From there, you can put your single villager and search for a partner for them. You can choose what gender the prospective partners can have between male, female, and either, unfortunately no non-binary selection. Then you choose whether to look within Lakeburg itself, which only really works later on in the game when you actually have people, or within the surrounding areas. If you choose Lakeburg, you'll be presented with all of the other single residents and can see which one's best match before going on a date at no cost. If you choose the surroundings, you'll be presented one at a time with various randomly generated characters. You'll see their stats, their interests, where they are best suited to work, all the information you could possibly want to make this decision. You also can get an initial assessment of their compatibility, which is influenced mainly by mutual likes and or dislikes, and also by certain traits like if they are funny or mean. I usually kept going until I found someone with at least good compatibility with my villager, but in order to do this, I'd need to spend the heart's currency to skip over less than ideal suitors. Once you've selected your candidate, it's time to take them out on a date, and I hope you were paying attention to what each of them liked and disliked, because that's how we fill the initial love meter. You'll have 3 chances to choose between topics of conversation, each corresponding with characters' likes or dislikes. Pick correctly and the heart on screen fills up. If you answer all 3 correctly, you start with 3 bars on your couple's love meter. Maximum is 4. 2 correct gets you 2 bars, 1 correct for 1 bar, and 0 correct is a failed date and they can't get married. You can always back out even if you give correct responses on the date, but then you'll have to start the whole process over again. It's a very straightforward system, but depending on how you play, you can use this system to recruit some fantastic workers who may not be a great match for your character, or find the perfect match who's just not very good at anything useful. Or in the very rare case, you get someone who's a good match and a good worker. Once you've got your couple and presumably a home, you can start having babies. No, it doesn't matter if they share the same gender, they can have a biological child anyways. The initial houses can only fit 1 child, but using wood, hearts, and later stone, you can expand the house for more and more children as desired. From 0 to 6 years old, the children are just around being kids, but at 6, they now have the chance to learn how to do a job via apprenticeships. In a separate page on the production menu for a building, you can set children to basically shadow an adult doing work that you would hope the kid could do in the future. Now granted, there are some professions that kids are not allowed to shadow, but we'll get into the illicit industries in due time. They learn as apprentices until they turn 18, and then it's out of the house, go find your own, and set yourself up with someone too while we're at it. One disappointment I found from the child system, though, is the lack of feeling like there's proper inheritance, or a proper lineage between characters. Sure, you can follow family trees, but I wish it was more evident that a kid came from the family of lumberjacks. There are occasional events that pop up that allow you to make decisions that may affect relationships or traits of the characters involved. I love the idea of the mechanic, but unfortunately I was already seeing multiple repeated events in just my one playthrough of the game. I wish there was more to the event system and also more chances of different outcomes, because I would see these same events and I would get the same results if I picked the same thing. A system more like Crusader Kings' percentage-based consequences for picking certain events would be ideal in this situation. On the job and management side of things, every villager has certain needs that you must try to meet to make them happy. Starting out, those needs are very basic. Wood to keep warm and build houses, vegetables and meat to eat, clothes to wear. As they level up as citizens, though, some more advanced needs come into play, such as weapons, beer, or furniture, and eventually leading to some luxury needs, such as jewelry or paintings. In order to meet those needs, you'll need to construct specific buildings that make said items and staff them appropriately. Unfortunately, you don't get to choose where the buildings are placed or how they look, so that aspect of city building is not in this game. Your villagers have a star rating on how well they can do certain jobs. It's probably not a good idea to put a 0-star worker in a job unless there is seriously no one else. You may also see characters with a fancier star design for particular jobs. That means this job fulfills their aspiration, and those individuals are usually happier and do better when performing said jobs, although the star rating is still the overall determiner. Along with getting the best people working the jobs, you can also spend money to upgrade certain aspects of buildings, including the conditions and rate of production. Money is also used to recruit people from other towns in a separate menu, or do trading with Ernesto and his llama. Very easy to use and highly useful. Some buildings also use other resources to produce stuff, such as the carpenter who uses wood to create furniture. Therefore, it's a good idea to keep an eye on your resources on the top of the screen and what color their box is. Green means abundant resources, gray is barely sufficient, and red is deficient production. This is the scrambling to put out the fire side of things, which becomes all the worse when a key member of production dies and you need to replace them. When you've got 10 villagers, this is fairly easy. When you have over 150, one death can throw off your entire production. So have fun! The late arriving feature of the game to spice up the game flow comes in the 4 meters that can be found on the right side of the screen. These 4 meters are health, faith, entertainment, and protection, and they are each affected by a pair of contrasting buildings. Health is determined by the rodent's nest, where your workers are trying to control and train the rats so they don't negatively affect health in the community, and by the hospital, which is treating the sick. Together, if these are well staffed, you can keep the meter up, which reduces the chances of negative sick traits, or if your workers are really doing a good job, can bring a chance of positive traits. For faith, the two buildings are the pleasure house and the church. For entertainment, the prank shop and the theater, and for protection, it's the thieves guild and the guardhouse. Plus the bonus illicit building of the Assassin's Guild, which is really important to staff because that one negatively affects all of the meters. After basic necessities, these were the most important buildings for my playthrough to staff because a negative health meter can have consequences with villagers dying early and their replacements not being up to snuff. All of this, though, is just the attempts to try to survive. Let's talk about how you win or succeed. It's all about the prestige, baby. Make great couples, get prestige. Have a good ruler and consort, get prestige. Bring in a bunch of nobles, prestige. Construct and staff feasts, jousts, dances, and gambling halls, prestige. That's ultimately what you are judged on at the end of the game. How much prestige did you collect? I found it pretty easy to get prestige, but there's even more you could do, like targeting the objectives in the prestige menu or overthrowing a bad ruler. I don't have much else to say about this mechanic. Basically just your final score, and once you've finished it, it's on to the next one. One of the things you'll notice right away in the game is the diversity of character looks. This is especially clear when it comes to the eyes and face of each character. I do think there's more that can be done with the general body and hair diversity, but overall it's nice to see. The art style of the game also feels very appropriate for this medieval era fantasy land with great outfits and use of colors to give it an old fancy map style feel. Then we have the music. While there aren't a lot of tracks, the ones we do have are perfect background music and have stuck in my head long after stopping playing the game. Tonally, they fit exactly the style of game Ishtar Games was going for with Lakeburg Legacies. Now, it takes some time to adjust to how the game plays and works. By the end, I think I had a firm handle on how everything goes, but it's undoubtedly intimidating to start with. This is not helped by the series of overlapping menus and busy UI of the game. I did find, as I learned, that most of the information I was looking for was around if I knew where to look for it, but I wasn't taught how, so I just had to learn from experience. It's unfortunate because the overall way information is presented in the menus is quite good. There's just so much on screen at once that important details can fall through, and the tutorial isn't ready to take on the monumental task of explaining everything, especially to someone new to this type of game. My final piece to talk about in the presentation comes with the amount this game taxed my computer. My computer is on the older side, but you can see all the games it has handled in relatively good shape. Lakeburg Legacies, especially in the later part of the game, pushed my PC to its limit. The amount of different things to process in a village of 175 people is incredible. I did still manage to finish, but the game crashed multiple times in those last 5 years of gameplay. Just a warning to those who, like me, may have a computer that can glide through the early game, but will struggle to chug through these last few in-game years. I did also experience the saddest bug I've ever encountered when a couple divorced before their baby could be born. Think one of the parents will take the kid? Think again. He was homeless and I could not place him in any home even if there was an open spot for him. Really made me sad. Poor Balthazar. Lakeburg Legacies is a game where I see the vision. There's still plenty I'd love to see them do with the game, such as allowing us to customize character names and looks, or increasing the amount of events and improving tutorials, but as it is now, I had a good time with the game. Lakeburg Legacies is a fun game that offers a customizable gameplay experience, shifting between matchmaking and relationships management and resource and kingdom management. I'm glad the full game lived up to my expectations after waiting for the release for so long, and I encourage those interested to give the game a try. However, if it's not a game that looks appealing to you, I think this isn't one necessarily to try out, but there is a demo if you want to give it a chance anyways for free. Thank you to Ishtar Games for the code provided so I could make this video. Also, if you want a chance to get a free copy of the game, follow me on Twitter and like and retweet to enter my giveaway. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like to improve the prestige of the channel in the algorithm's eye. Comment below your thoughts on Lakeburg Legacies and subscribe if you have not already to keep up with the next videos I post. Have a great day and happy gaming.